Jen, it's such a joy for me to welcome you. Welcome to welcome to the Worthy Collective. And I would love, because I obviously know who you are, but I'd love for you to tell the ladies who you are and what it is you do.
Sure. So my name's Jenn. I'm an author and the founder of Right Current. And Right Current is a publisher of life enhancement tools and programs to soothe and support women and compassionate men who are navigating change in life. So these tools, or the age range is 25 to 65, women and men around the world. And people are choosing to access them who are in active disease process, remission, change of health status, change of relationship status. Like, it's really run the gamut, Sandra, on what people are choosing to access this for. And it's just so mind-blowing. And so prior to becoming a published author, I was a writer for other people. As Sandra knows, when we had lunch, I'd written millions of words for other people, but none under my own name or for myself. And so journaling for me has been an interesting journey. I don't know if you've journaled before, but I have abandoned many very successful journals that have worked for millions of people, but they didn't work for me. And that's okay. And I gave myself permission. But what I found was, in the middle of the pandemic, I had a health scare. The doctors were worried that I had lupus, and it showed that I had markers for mixed connective tissue disease, which can just autoimmune and inflammation. And I was really worried, what if I squandered my gifts of writing? And what if I was never able to write for myself? So I was like, okay, I promise I'm going to write every day about anything and anything at all. And if as long as this never comes to physically manifestation. So basically, I've journaled a million words since 2020. I do a lot of free writing. And then from the journey of, Sandra knows a little bit about my journey. So my journey of healing sort of began in navigating relationship and divorce. The book is called Bloom Notes because my journey actually began in a flower shop. I really believe before we're ready to write or express in words, that we have to reconnect to presence. So flowers was such a way for me to reconnect to presence. And when we reconnect to feeling, that activates the expression of words. And so many of the Bloom Notes were actually spoken conversations with other people that I had to get it out verbally before I could pen it down. And so it evolved. This whole series sort of evolved with painting first. I tell people that my rough drafts are paint and flowers, which is kind of bizarre for a writer, but here we are. And so it evolved into sending out a weekly Bloom Note, because at first I thought, who even wants to read these, right? Because I pulled Bloom Notes. The pages in Bloom Notes are imperfect because they're pulled from my personal journal pages. And it was not until I had women saying, I had COVID and was in self-isolation, and I was rereading your emails, and they made me feel that I wasn't alone, and other people telling me I couldn't sleep, and I'm reading these notes. And it was my mom, who never asks for anything, but she's like, Jennifer, you've ruined us with all of your notes. We want all of them. And I just think it should be a book. So I said, really? Like, you think people want them? So I put it into a book and journal prompts just to go a little bit deeper, and then allow people to celebrate their moments, because the celebrating joy and laughter, once I was navigating that season in the flower shop and learning to reconnect to myself again, like, who was I as a person? It was really powerful for me to learn to celebrate myself and to realize that you can celebrate strength and resilience. You don't have to grin and bear it. You get to celebrate your courage and bravery. And so just giving women a container to do that in their privacy of their pages, that has been one of the biggest things that has come up about this, the privacy. So that's just really been snapshot of the journey of how it unfolded, and more than I could have asked for I never knew this was coming at lunch, but you know what? Maybe that's the best things. It's the unexpected, right?
Yeah, it definitely was because okay, so we've known each other for a few years, and when we had lunch at that point, it was a beautiful group of us who call ourselves sisters, and you were in you're writing for I can't even remember, like you're writing for like construction companies and things like that. Like,
Heating and furnace company, yes. So it was like so far removed.
and but tell people, so at that point, you were on your journey to really just rediscovering yourself. So for those who don't know your story in terms of tell us what had led to that point of you feeling lost, you feeling like you needed to reconnect with yourself.
Sure. So in 2016, I separated. We ended I call it evolving a relationship. So we evolved our relationship in divorce. And so for me, I had basically my identity and all of the roles that I had assigned myself had just been stripped. So then I was just stripped raw, basically, and left feeling, okay, I'm no longer a wife. And I don't see my kids every day. And I had to redefine motherhood because at that point in my mind, a mom saw her kids every day and I never would have that again. So I needed to do that, and just really realizing it was about 2018 that I came to the point of I want to write stories like for myself, but I was afraid of my own stories. I was afraid of feeling the feelings and that I would buckle under the weight of them, right? To feel and process. And that left me just in a state where I felt stuck in my life, right? How do I move forward? And so, Sandra, I met Sandra in a group because I, decided now I need to dive a little bit deeper into personal development. I could have used the Worthy Collective back then, Sandra, just saying, because self-worth was at the root, right? It was at the root, of being able to own my story and to claim it as mine and to know that it doesn't define me. And to just, one of the things that I had to realize was I love everyday moments. That's what I write about, joy, laughter, strength, resilience, care, and compassion. That's my joy. And I had to tell myself that those matter and they're worth sharing. And the more we can share those moments, like stories connect us. So yeah, it was really the healing from the divorce, and it was creating the stability in the new family unit with myself and my kids, and just navigating boundaries, how to set boundaries with my ex-husband, how to, change a relationship that was basically like eggshells for the entire time we'd ever been together so that it was no longer like that, changing the direction of how the conversations went, learning to say no, not people pleasing anymore. Those were all really things that had to come into play in order for me to do this. And one of my friends who was also at the lunch, who loves to bring me to tears, our friend Uchechi, said, when are you going to be good enough to write for yourself? Like, how many more millions of words do you have to write for other people? How much more success do you have to write for other people to realize that your stories matter? And so it was really like the self-worth piece is huge. And like, I was so thrilled when Sandra reached out, because in another journal that I actually gifted Sandra, because I knew when she read that one, she was going to be like, geez, it literally says, your vision is yours alone. Your vision is worthy. And worthy is literally at the top of every single page, because I needed to know that. And I needed to reclaim that in myself. So when I sent that to Sandra, and she had no idea, like none. And I was like, she's going to hold that book in her hands. And it just validates this entire collective.
I literally had a moment when I got it and I opened it and we had the whole, so Jen's so beautiful. She sent me, this is so fun. She sent me flowers and the delivery guy came to deliver, but I wasn't home. And so then the flowers, it was a whole thing. And so when I eventually got them, I got the flowers in the book. And what was so fascinating, and this is to the point of, you said something so powerful, Jenn. You said that we're all connected by our stories. And so I got a phone call from the concierge. He's like, I'm holding these flowers for you. And I went to pick them up, and he's a super lovely, super chatty guy. And he said, oh, I actually don't want to give you your flowers because I've been enjoying having them here. And so he's like, oh, like, what's the occasion? And so I said, oh, they're from my friend, my beautiful friend, who's just written a book. And of course, I'm holding the package, and him being him, he's like, can I see the book? Right. And so I take out the book, and we're kind of going through the book. And he said, which was the most beautiful thing, he's like, wow, this is such a beautiful thing that your friend has done. She's like, he's literally, and he's a guy, right? He's an older Indian guy, and he's flipping through, and he's like, this is such a beautiful thing that your friend has done for the world. Those were his words. And this is funny to Jenn, will remember this. He insisted. He's like, I want to send your friend a message to thank her. So I had to like get my phone, and then he wanted to record a voice note. But it is such a beautiful thing, Jenn, that you've done for the world, because all too often, as especially us as women, we minimize our stories because we think, oh, I'm just a mom. And we minimize ourselves. And yet that is our power, is these stories that connect us. And so for you, Jenn, what had led to the point where you had such low self-worth that you'd ended up in the situation that you're in? How had you got there?
So basically what had happened, I guess the journey of that was I had autoimmune disease, ulcerative colitis, from 2003 up until 2020, actually. And I was working as an elementary school teacher. That was my background, an educator for almost a decade. And then at that point, it was a lot of like my relationship with my husband and the negative work environment with the public school system. I realized that, and I've connected this to that, our self-worth at the time, it was so low. And I know Sandra says your self-worth reflects, and I can tell you, I can attest, we didn't have a call before this, but it was a mirror, like what I was feeling on the inside, the low self-worth. And I think for me, when I was diagnosed, I basically entered adulthood with the identity of an ill person. I had thyroid cancer at 18. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis at 23. So I entered adulthood with, I'm an ill person. I didn't know that well-being could be a value of mine at that time. And so I really tried to outpill it. So at one point I was taking 14 pills a day, feeling terrible, right? And then constantly in a cycle of flare up, constantly in that negative self-talk. I felt like my body had betrayed me. It was just everything. Like I planted in, and I really rooted in that negative belief of myself. And I attracted a man who would, reflect that back to me, that low self-worth, because he too, low self-worth, right? Energetic alignment. And then I used to, in the school system, all the people I taught with, again, very low vibration, right? And saying, this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Like to me, almost on a daily basis, personally and professionally. So finally in 2015, at the lowest low, I just said, I can't do this anymore. I said, my youngest was almost 2. And I just said to my husband, I can't do this anymore. I want to stay home. I can't go to teach anymore. My body can't do it. And I just declared, Sandra, I'm going to pursue writing. I'd never written anything aside from report cards at that point. So my very first time writing was when I was 35. So I'm 41 now, but I'd never written a word aside from report cards. So if anyone here is thinking, I'm too old, it's too late, I can't. So as soon as and this is interesting, Sandra will appreciate this. So at that point, that was my first step forward in, I'm worth not feeling like crap, right? I'm worth not feeling like this. So I made that change, and very quickly my health turned around. The ulcerative colitis flare-ups were gone, right? And over 5 years, I recently had in November a colonoscopy. He's like, you are in such deep, deep remission. We'll say that you're healed. You don't need to have immune suppressants. We can't technically say you're healed because can't explain this. Just like with the mixed connective tissue, they're like, it's in your body, but it's not physically expressed. We can't explain it. But for me, I know and I feel it's because I'm taking care of my emotional well-being, my mental well-being. I put boundaries around how my ex-husband can and can't speak to me, and it was funny because as soon as I took charge of that myself, it changed. Our marriage eroded it was already eroding, but I left it in 2016 with diagnosis of an STI of HPV. But I said, this is my body. I'm no longer available for any of this, right? I no longer choose this. So that was like the further rooting of my well-being and like leaving that marriage, Sandra, like my self-worth of me over the past, I would say it was 3 years, right? Of like, doing the work and changing my habits, habits with Sandra, my well-being, the habits, realizing that well-being could be a priority, realizing that healing was a priority. Like it was funny. I saw a memory pop up on Facebook of 2018 me at a coffee shop at like 10 p.m. drinking coffee with a notebook saying, I want to write my own stories. And I would just tell that 38-year-old me, go home and go to bed. And your only job is to heal. Because that's the thing, right? Your job is to feel and take good care of yourself and know how much you matter and how much your presence matters and your words matter to everyone in your life. And so on the flip side of this, my ex-husband, Mike, and he actually has with love and gratitude note in the back of the book, Sandra has, and our relationship is totally different. We became a family in divorce, which we never had in the marriage, but it's because I reclaimed my health, my self-worth and my health, my well-being, and it's a priority. And now the people in my life, it's totally different. I don't have that negativity, but because I reclaimed my self-worth and I came to know how much I matter, but when I was wishy-washy on it, man, all the decisions I made, it's really interesting. I approach the mixed connective tissue scare much differently than the ulcerative colitis. I approached it from a lens of well-being. And I also feel that has helped in it not manifesting the way the other experience did,
It's literally like mind blowing. And I wish more people would make that connection about the power of our emotions and how they physically manifest. And so when we suppress our emotions, there's a picture that you shared on your Facebook a little while ago. And it was so stark to me. You
Mhm.
had a side by side of yourself. I can't remember how many years ago. And then next to a picture of yourself now. And what was striking to me was your eyes. How in the one picture you literally were, I hate to say it, but dead. Like you
Yes.
literally were just like this. And then now, like this vitality and this, and that was just, how did you feel safe though, Jenn, to deal with the emotions? Because I think that's the part that scares a lot of people. You said it earlier about we're so afraid that we'll get like drowned by our emotions, overwhelmed by the emotions. What was it that made you feel like I can start to tackle them? And how did you start?
So I started in a therapist's office in 2015. I went for a different matter because I thought, manage the ulcerative colitis. Maybe I'll talk to him. But one of the things he said was he said, if you were to fall, this was the vacant, and I'll be happy to dig those up and you can share them with the group because it is quite a difference. But I remember him saying, if you were to fall down right now, no one would come and help you. No one, because happy, sad, who knows? You put a smile on your face and you just carry on. And he was right. Like he was right. And I came to realize, like when I was younger, I used to constantly fall down the stairs. And as an adult, I used to constantly like burn. I have scars from just burning during baking and stuff like that. And I connected just recently that I, at the time, was more comfortable feeling physical pain than emotional pain. And one of the things that, when he said that to me, and he's like, he's like, you're here to deal with anxiety. He's like, you are constantly in your head surveying, what do they want to hear? What's the popular opinion here? He's like, you don't have strong opinions about things. He's like, you're just surveying to see what do they want to hear. And then he's like, and then you're making yourself as small as possible in order to, fit in or whatever. And I was tired of not having, like, I was really tired of superficial friendships and the relationships, you know? And so I just made the commitment to myself that I was no longer going to edit myself. And that was in 2016. And I just went for it, Sandra. When I make the commitment, I just go for it, even if it's uncomfortable. And so I did. And so what I did was I decided I'm no longer editing myself. And oh boy, did my ex-husband not like that at all. And the therapist warned me that when I do that, he's like, you will rock every single relationship in your life, every single one with your husband, with your children, friendships. And he was right. All of a sudden, I wasn't convenient anymore, and they fell away. And so I made a new friend. Simon is his name, and he's got a Bloom Notes with love and gratitude, and he became my best friend in 2016. And I thank him because when I met him, I remember telling him all like the things that were unraveling in my life. And I said, why are you still here? I told you all of my bad things and you're still here, And he's like, well, where would I go? Like, I'm your friend. Like, and so he taught me emotional safety, right? In the friendship, he taught me trust, integrity, respect. He taught me boundaries. And it's funny because I hadn't had like a man platonic friend since I was like 16, but it was I needed that to heal it because I had such no trust with men after my ex-husband. And so it was making that declaration, Sandra, and in the fall, and literally I met Simon in February, right, of the next year. So 2015, November, February, boom, here's this man that you're going to become friends with. And he was connected to the writing too. He's the furnace person too, right? And so connecting with him, I learned how to journey millions of people through content, and he gave me a tag. Like, how powerful is this? Impacting millions at Christmas last year. And he's like, now it's your turn to do it with your own content, like when you're ready, even though it wasn't, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Jenn, something that you touched on and that I'm so proud of you for, because it's not a topic that many people want to talk about. And it is, you mentioned it, your STI. What was it that made you decide that you wanted to publicly talk about it? Because really, no one would ever know. You could just keep it to yourself. What made you want to share your status and then the beautiful words that you share around it?
So I decided to share it because when I was 36, right, I was, diagnosed, and I remember sitting in the blood clinic with the STI, and they were doing a full panel on everything. And I was very scared. And I remember feeling so much shame that they were that they were drawing blood for this. And I remember thinking, like, whose shame am I even holding here? Right. And so I realized that, and it's funny because that was something that my ex-husband never wanted me to talk about. Right. And so I published 3 Bloom Notes about that because I have, it's persistent HPV more than 5 years. It didn't go away after the year and a half. For a lot of people, it goes away a year and a half, 2 years. And I just said to myself, like, what if I had just allowed, and my doctor said, what if this is just more frequent cervix checks for you? What if you can just look at this as part of your well-being, supporting your well-being? And I thought, you know what? To fully release the shame, I need to talk about it. I need to write about it. And then, Sandra, the universe, as it often does, was like, it's not enough, Jenn, to publish 3 notes and write about it, because I got a message from a woman, in another country who said, I was talking to my friend in Canada about my STI status. She says that you write about it, but I can't find the content. And I'm nervous about having a conversation with a new partner. Maybe I just shouldn't date at all. And so, of course, I said, well, of course you're going to date, and this is a conversation. So I re-found the notes, bumped them up on the IG, and I thought to myself, you're going to do a live and you're going to talk about it, because I'd never done that. And the thing is, I've only had conversations with the partner, right? 2 partners about it. But the thing is, we don't write notes to our partner. We speak about it. So I thought, why can't you just do this live? Right? Why can't you just do the live and share it? So I did, and it was funny because a week after I shared that, she wrote and said, thank you so much. I was so nervous and sick to my stomach, but I did it. Thank you for giving me the courage to do it. So I wrote her back and it was, met with honesty and understanding. And I wrote her back and said, thank you for sharing this wonderful news, but you reclaimed your courage, right? You reclaimed it. And I also did a rundown too about, there are many different factors like trust, integrity, respect, self-acceptance needs to be present, care, compassion. Like if those 6 aren't even there, you don't even need to have the conversation, because they're not worthy of your friendship or romantic relationship. And that goes for everyone. That's something that I really learned.
That's deep. And that's so powerful. What you say is that so many people are holding shame. That what you just said is so powerful, Jenn, that whose shame am I holding, right? Like that for so many people it keeps, and then that's how it all gets kind of carried on, because no one wants to have that conversation. And so for you, Jenn, what would you say has been the biggest, like when you've had conversations with partners, what's been their response? What's been your biggest, like, surprise maybe about having that conversation? Had they had partners who'd had that conversation with them before?
So this is again funny, right? Because I feel like, so for me, it was a very positive experience. So it was met with care and compassion and understanding as well. And what was interesting was I was gifted, I feel like, from the universe with the most open partner he could have, where it was just open conversation. And I really feel like it was so open that I became confident with like leading and having those conversations, because although he was fine, it was almost like he was teaching me, Sandra, how to lead sex conversations across the gamut, not just about health status, but just everything, and it was funny because so I was gifted that the care and compassion, but it was funny because I had another little test where, one of a different platonic man friend, the universe seems to send me platonic men friends, I guess, to practice on. I don't know if having these, like just chatting. And so it was funny, but with him, he was dating, and I said, like, STI status is something you should get used to talking about with people. And he's like, oh, I don't want to have that. That makes me feel like I don't want to date. And I said, why? Because you might date a woman who is STI positive, and you have to negotiate your feelings around that and all this. And I said to him, I thanked him for the conversation, because I said, 5 years ago, if I had heard that, I would have just been crushed, even though it's just a friend. But I said, you know what? That just made me realize how much I do accept myself and how much I have come to be okay with it. But yeah, I feel like the energy of that conversation is really met with whatever energy you're projecting out to them, right? And your level of self-acceptance with it is what radiates back, and again, that self-worth part of it, right? And just just realizing like it's an accommodate, like there are accommodations that need to be made, obviously. But it doesn't mean it's a barrier. And if anything, like having those conversations, it means you're going to have more open conversation about so much. It's going to be more enjoyable. And also realizing if they're not self-accepting in themselves, they don't accept themselves, they're not going to accept you. And it's a projection of their stuff. And that's not for you to wear either.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. That if someone's not willing to be accepting of you, that's really a reflection of them and where they are in terms of accepting themselves.
Mhm.
Oh, that's woo. Jen. So, how do we start? Because I know a lot of women say to me, because one of the pillars of Worthy is reflection. And so I talk often about the power of journaling, the power of seeing our words, the power of just letting our words pour out on pages. How do you start? Like, if you've never journaled before, what's the advice that you would give to someone, especially for you who said you really didn't start writing until you're what, 30, 35, right?
35. Yeah, 35. So what I would say, and so Bloom Notes is, Bloom Notes is different, very different, I think, than most journals. But what's cool about it is there's the Bloom Note itself. So what I suggest is I don't suggest going from start to finish. It's really been a book that women who have never journaled before are choosing because there's different elements in it. So, there's a Bloom Note where so I say, if all you are up for, so reconnecting, right, is and reflecting, part of that's tuning into what you need. So what I say to women is, do you need to read and feel? Because if reading and feeling is all you need today, then reading the Bloom Note itself is enough, and then closing the book. And then if it's writing and feeling, go to the journal prompt, right? Read the Bloom Note, do the journal prompt. And if it's just writing and reflecting, as Sandra said, just letting the words pour on the page, turn to one of the pages where it's just letting you celebrate a moment. And so I've organized it into 3 sections: celebrating joy and laughter, celebrating strength and resilience, celebrating care and compassion. But like I said, who wants to do 17 weeks of strength and resilience? So normally I just suggest opening the book and whatever page is meant for you, like that message is meant for you. And this one that I turned to is can I read it? Because it's so meant for us. And
Please, I'd love that.
so I just opened it to any page. There's no marker. So it's celebrating care and compassion. Your journey is yours alone. So this is actually just the introductory note of care and compassion. Celebrating care and compassion. Your journey is yours alone. You can't do the work for other people. They need to come to their own conclusions on their own. They have their lessons to learn just as you have yours to learn. Everyone has the right to exercise free will or to choose to learn their lessons the hard way. You don't need to choose to learn the hard way anymore. You're choosing to learn through peace. You're choosing to learn through calm. You're choosing to learn through joy. You're choosing to learn through love. There are so many more lessons available to you when you choose the path of peace, calm, love, and joy. I'll share some Bloom Notes of my own of care and compassion in the pages that follow. After each Bloom Note, a journal prompt will invite you to dig deeper, along with a page to celebrate your own moment.
What a powerful thing, because I think so often we want to fix other people, right? We're so busy trying to fix other people and sometimes it's because, to the point that you made earlier, we don't want to look at ourselves because that's much harder. It's easier to say, oh, yeah, I can fix you, and here's what's wrong with you, and here's what you need to do. But we really don't want to turn the lens on ourselves.
That's
And that's like for you, Jen, were there any notes that you wrote where you're like, I don't want to share this one?
Well, the STI ones at first to publish. I will say that. I will say, even though I published them, so my friend Hillary, she owns a flower shop, and she wanted to carry the Bloom Notes in her flower shop. And we had breakfast. And I said, I was excited, but I said, but Hillary, what about those notes? What if someone were to buy them as a gift and then you know what I mean? So I did worry about that. And then she's like, Jen, That's real life, and they need to read them. Like, we just need to read them. There was actually a note about my dad. I did publish a note about my dad in the Care and Compassion. And it talked about, so the relationship with my dad, when I left teaching and I left marriage in a span of 11 months, I basically took everything my dad was proud of me and then like took it all away from him. And especially no longer seeing the kids every day. So my dad and I had like our own transition of relationship, because he wasn't accepting of the writing at all. And so it was interesting because my brother writes as well with his company, and he would always speak about my brother's writing, but never wanted to read mine or speak about mine. And he's very proud of my sister's photography and all of this. So that to me just felt like hurtful. And so it came to, but the summer of 2020, I actually visited them every week. And the lot was whether I had kids or not in the weekends. And it was funny because the last time I did that was when I was navigating the separation in 2016. I was going up to their place when when it wasn't my day with the kids. And so that was so healing for our relationship. And it allowed me to recognize that my dad had his own grieving process while I was navigating change. And I didn't know that at the time. That would have been really helpful for me to know. And I write that in the note. No one told me that other people are going to be grieving. So I decided to publish the note because I told him that I wanted to create visual writing prompts. And did he have any pictures? Because he's a great photographer. And he literally sent me a text and said, Jenn, here's the link. There's 200 images there. They're perfect for your project. It's almost as if they've been waiting for you. So then I bawled at my desk because it just felt like an avalanche wave of acceptance of something that he wasn't accepting of in the past. And
Isn't that an interesting thing? Because I think often when we're going through something, whatever transition it is, we often just, think about ourselves and our pain. And it's the fact that sometimes there are other people, who what if for whatever reason are connected, whether it be family, friends, who also are feeling some loss, right? Because as they knew you or knew that relationship, it has ended. But what has been so beautiful for me as an outsider looking in has been watching, and I use such a beautiful word, the evolution of your relationship. And to see you now with your ex-husband spending holidays and dinners and him inviting you when it's not your weekend with the kids. What would you say for anyone who is navigating that change? What are some of the key things that you feel have led to you being where you are now?
so what's really interesting for us is we didn't have a vision for our marriage at all, which is very reflective of how that went. But we had a vision for our divorce. We both knew that we didn't want the divorce to define us, who we are as individuals, and we didn't want it to define the kids or our family in any way. And so we chose to like work from that vision, and we have a mentor who was always telling us to work from the vision. Well, we did in divorce in 2016, and part of that was, allowing myself to say, pickups and school drop-offs in that first year, pickups and drop-offs are exclusively done at school. He didn't come to my house at all that first year because I didn't want him to be there. This was my space. I was healing, and I said to him, I'm no longer that person that you can tell about your day. Like, we're in the, we're raising children, but we're not being friends, because he wanted to be my friend right away. And I said, I can't go there with you. We're raising the kids, can't dial it back. So it was time and space of allowing myself to heal, putting the boundaries in, and that were to help me, with my self-worth and get myself in that set up in a good place. And so it was from there, knowing that in 2018, so this was, I guess, 2 years of space and healing. That's kind of when, his birthday is December 19th. So the kids were like, can we make daddy cupcakes? So we did. We made the cupcakes, and we went and got the birthday present and we got that. But that was actually, I'll say he was the first person before 3 months before that, that was the change. Our daughter's birthday, I had her the day before, but her actual birthday, it was the first one. I'd never seen her on her birthday. She was 8. So I just bawled my eyes out all day. And he invited me out for dinner with them. So he made that invitation and I said yes. And I saw in that moment, you know what? This was nice. This was a good thing for us. And then when his birthday rolled around, then we did the cupcakes and the the Christmas shopping kind of a thing. And then from there, that's sort of the pandemic, though, Sandra, was really healing for us because all of a sudden my ex-husband is now in my bubble, which for most people would be like, what the actual, what is happening? And I was like that at times. I thought, is this like some cosmic joke? This is the person I can see. But so it was healing for us because it allowed us to have that, like, I celebrated my 40th birthday and he made me a beautiful dinner, with the kids and the cake and all that. And I remember blowing out the candles and feeling like we're a family, separate and apart. And it was just those little moments of care throughout the pandemic. And that really helped to heal. And it helped me to appreciate him for who he is. He's someone who can only hold, like, he's somebody who wants everyone to have a good time, just keep it really light and superficial. And so I could appreciate the laughter that he brought and leave it at that, not have any other expectations of it, and just be like, this is him. And we appreciate, I say, we didn't accept each other in divorce and now we appreciate each other and we accept each other.
What you said there is, gosh, Jenn, like so many mic drop moments, but you said we didn't have a vision for the marriage, but you had a vision for the divorce and how different those two experiences were. And isn't that like, it literally made me think, do I have a vision for my marriage?
Everyone's going to be vision crafting. We can do that in January. No.
So what are you doing then? So that is, okay, talking about vision, and as we're, coming to the end of the year and all of that good stuff, what do you do? What's your practice in terms of how do you set your vision? Do you have any practices, any rituals that you do for the end of the year?
Yeah, no, I choose a word. That's been a new thing for me over the past 3 years. My word for 2020 was receive. Allowing myself to receive help because I love giving to people, but receiving, that was a whole other thing. And I had to let myself receive help, and then my word for 2021 was bloom. Just everything's in bloom with the books and bloom was my word. And then, setting that word and the intention, behind it. And that's really been the practice for me. Writing like an open letter, right, to myself about how that, the energy of the words and how that can support like what's to come is going to be something new in 2021 to allow myself to do that, not just choose the word, but something I talk about a lot in Root Notes, which is another journal. It's a moment to release, a moment to renew, a moment to savor, and a moment to share. So, my word for 2022 is harvest, right? And someone asked me, what does harvest mean to you? And I said, it means really harvesting all of those lessons to share, right? All of the things that bloomed this year, all of those moments, right? All the lessons, all the love. And I talk about it's harvesting like my power, reclaiming the power, because when I do that, I can share with others the love, the lessons, and the gratitude, right, for these experiences, and one thing I'll say about gratitude, I believe it is dance partners with grief and forgiveness in our life. So if anyone at any point is struggling with gratitude, I say to people, well, where is there an edge of forgiveness that's needed, right? For you, for someone else, or perhaps it can be just acknowledging that there's some grief here attached to that gratitude. So that's my practice. Is I do like the word because it's something that like can build you up, right? And it's something to, look for. So like in 2021, I was like, what am I blooming in my life? Like what's blooming here in my relationships and friendships and what needs to fall away, because that was a big lesson in 2020. I said I wanted to receive. You have to release well to receive well. So that was a big lesson too, so just asking that.
Jenn, you are truly like such an inspiration. So just how you've navigated all of this has been such an inspiration. And then for you to still like just makes me just giddy with excitement because I like I was telling my doorman about my friend. She's my friend, and she's like, "Wow, your friend's a published author." I'm like, "Yes, she's my friend." And to think that this wasn't even a dream, this wasn't even like I was like, well, you were writing stuff about construction and lawyers and boring stuff, and now to be able to hold in my hand your words, your beautiful words. And I want to read something. Yeah. I literally too just opened up a page and I felt like this was something that really spoke to me and I want to share. So it is from Celebrating Strength and Resilience. And the bloom note is, it's a question. How often do you celebrate yourself? And Jenn says, I struggled with this for a really long time. If you do too, this is an invitation from my heart to yours. Lean into that discomfort and celebrate yourself. The biggest celebration for me when it came to choosing to receive and cultivate patience in my life was how much more present I was in my life. I was showing myself more love and compassion, which rippled over into my relationships with others. I was feeling, doing, and expressing my needs, wants, and desires to create the space necessary to reconnect with myself and the patience that had been inside me all along. I felt more at ease in my life. I should just tearing up reading that. I literally am tearing up reading that. Jenn, is there any final words that you'd like to share with us as we end today?
Thank you so much for inviting me in, to share this energy. I love that this is a worthy collective and that we are all worthy in ourselves and and we're all worthy of knowing ourselves well and that depth of love and care. And I love to see all of you are committed to that in yourself, right? And in this space. And so it was just so wonderful to be a part of your energy today and to have the invitation to come in, and to share the work that you've already been doing within yourselves is just amazing to me. So it's truly my honor and privilege to get to be a guest here and to share your space. So thank you for having me. And thank you, Sandra, for being so wonderful. And I mean, I love all of Sandra's videos. So hearing Sandra read my words out loud is literally like a bucket list moment of checked off.
But truly, Jenn, thank you. I want to ask you one last question before we let you go. One of the things that I know you know, and one of the things that I know you believe is the power of our words and how we create with the power of our words. And so I'd love for you to finish this sentence for me. Okay. I am
worthy. You know why? Because for me to say that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said that. You know what I would have said? I am a mother. I am a teacher. I am a writer. I am an author. I am all these roles. So I'm standing with the I am worthy because I wouldn't have said that. I don't even think I would have said that a year ago, Sandra. I am worthy and I know it to say that out loud.
I love that. I love you, Jenn. Where can people find you to find out more about your work? Because I also know that you've started doing workshops and things. So where can people find more information about you and your work?
Sure. Right Current is on Instagram and, WRITECURRENT, and there's a little underscore, and rightcurrent.com. Is as well a great place to find me. And yeah, I would love to connect with you on Instagram and hear how your journaling journey's going and all of that. And just celebrate the worthiness that we all are and celebrate your everyday moments together.
Jenn, you know this, that I love you. You are my sister. And I am so grateful that you said yes when I asked you to come and join us today. So grateful for the courage that it has taken for you to put this beautiful work out into the world. And my wish for you is that you will continue to put beautiful work like this out into the world because we all so desperately need it. And my wish for you as well is that you will continue to remember that you are indeed worthy.